Ferrari did not just surprise Silverstone. Ferrari created the kind of sprint shock that makes rival teams look straight at the FIA and ask, how is this happening? Because Silverstone is not a track where weak cars can hide. It exposes balance. It exposes tire stress. It exposes high-speed confidence. And according to the source material, this entire story starts with a dramatic British Grand Prix sprint qualifying picture, Hamilton on sprint pole, Ferrari at the center of the shock, and rival attention turning toward answers. That is the dangerous part. In Formula 1, dominance is not always suspicious. But sudden dominance, on a sprint weekend, at Silverstone, with almost no time for anyone else to react, becomes a completely different problem. Because if Ferrari found speed in the fastest corners, if the tires stayed alive, if the car gave Hamilton the trust to attack when others had to lift, then this is not just a strong session. It is a warning shot. Every rival now has to face the same question. Did Ferrari simply nail one perfect moment, or did they unlock something the rest of the grid does not understand? And when Formula 1 teams do not understand an advantage, they do not ignore it. They demand answers. But the real twist is this. The FIA may not be the biggest problem Ferrari's rivals are facing. Because if everything Ferrari did is legal, repeatable, and real, then the rest of the paddock is not chasing a controversy. They are chasing a car that may have just found the key to Silverstone before everyone else. Silverstone is where excuses go to die. A team can look quick at some circuits for reasons that do not last. Maybe the track hides a weakness. Maybe the straights cover up poor cornering. Maybe the car only works in one narrow condition, for one perfect lap, at one perfect moment. But Silverstone is different. Silverstone does not reward fake confidence. It asks the car to survive long, fast corners where the driver cannot hesitate. It asks the tires to hold on while the load keeps building. It asks the balance to stay calm when the speed is high and the steering input is small, but every tiny movement matters. That is why Ferrari's sudden strength here feels so threatening. Because when a car works at Silverstone, rivals cannot casually dismiss it. They cannot simply say, it was luck. They cannot comfortably say, the circuit made them look better than they are. Silverstone is too demanding for that. If Ferrari looked dominant in the sprint picture, then the first alarm inside rival garages would not be emotional. It would be analytical. Where did the time come from? Was it the fast corners? Was it tire temperature? Was it traction out of the slower sections? Was it clean air? Was it Hamilton extracting something the car had been hiding? And that final question matters most, because Hamilton at Silverstone changes the meaning of every result. A normal fast lap is a data point. A Hamilton fast lap at Silverstone becomes a warning. Because rivals know he does not need a perfect car to create pressure. He needs a car that gives him trust. Give Hamilton a front end he can lean on, give him tires that stay alive, give him enough stability through the fastest corners, and suddenly the whole weekend starts bending around him. That is where Ferrari becomes dangerous. Not because the source confirms a secret device. It does not. Not because there is confirmed wrongdoing. There is not. The danger is that Ferrari may have found something completely legal, completely repeatable, and completely uncomfortable for everyone else. A setup window. A balanced sweet spot. A way to make the car feel calm through the parts of Silverstone where other drivers feel the car beginning to move underneath them. And in Formula 1, that can be just as frightening as any scandal. Because if the advantage is legal, rivals cannot protest it away. They have to understand it. They have to copy it. Or they have to beat it on track. And on a sprint weekend, that is almost cruel. There is less time to experiment. Less time to rebuild the car. Less time to discover that the first direction was wrong and calmly choose another one. The sprint format forces teams to make big decisions with incomplete information. Ferrari's strength arrives like a locked door in the middle of a hallway. Everyone else is still moving fast, but suddenly they have to stop and ask, where is the key? That is why the FIA enters the conversation. Not because every question is an accusation. Sometimes, in Formula 1, asking the FIA for answers is a survival move. Teams want clarity. They want to know where the limits are. They want to know whether what they are seeing is simply brilliant execution, or whether there is something in the rules they need explained before the advantage grows. Because no team wants to spend a whole weekend chasing the wrong ghost. If Ferrari is strong because of tire management, rivals need one answer. If Ferrari is strong because of car balance, they need another. If Ferrari is strong because Hamilton found confidence earlier than everyone else, that creates a different problem entirely. And if the advantage is a mix of all three, that is when the paddock really starts to worry. Because a single advantage can be attacked. A combined advantage is harder to break. That is the first real reason rivals would demand answers. Ferrari may not have won only a session. They may have exposed a gap in understanding. And in Formula 1, the moment one team understands something the others do not, the race has already started shifting before the lights even go out. The second layer is where the story becomes dangerous, because Ferrari's sprint strength does not only create questions. It creates a race that every rival may have to run differently. That is the part people miss. A sprint weekend is not just a shorter Grand Prix. It is pressure without much escape. In a full race weekend, teams can sometimes let the story unfold slowly. They can watch the tires, wait for strategy, adjust their thinking, and recover from a bad opening phase. But in a sprint, the window is narrow. If Ferrari starts strong, rivals cannot afford to spend half the race studying them. They have to respond immediately. And immediate decisions are where mistakes are born. Do you attack Ferrari early, before the tires settle? Do you wait, hoping their pace fades? Do you push hard enough to stay close, even if that overheats the car? Or do you protect your own race, knowing that every cautious lap gives Ferrari more control? That is not just strategy. That is a psychological trap. Because Ferrari's strongest weapon in this situation may not be raw speed. It may be forcing every other team into uncomfortable choices before they fully understand what they are fighting. And when a rival team does not understand the advantage, every option feels risky. Attack too soon, and you might burn through the tires. Wait too long, and Ferrari may disappear into clean air. Try to copy their rhythm, and you may discover your car cannot do the same thing. Push your driver harder, and one small mistake can damage the entire weekend. This is why Silverstone makes the pressure sharper. The fastest corners do not forgive desperation. A driver who overdrives through those sections does not always gain time. Sometimes the car slides a little more. The tires heat a little more. The balance becomes less calm. And suddenly, the driver is not attacking Ferrari anymore. The driver is fighting his own car. That is exactly the kind of race Ferrari would want. Because if the red car is stable, and the rivals are forcing their cars beyond comfort, Ferrari does not need to win every battle with a dramatic overtake. Ferrari can win by making everyone else suffer while trying to keep up. That is a quieter kind of dominance. But it can be more painful. Think of it like running beside someone who looks relaxed while you are already breathing hard. They do not have to sprint away. They only have to keep the pace just high enough that you start making bad decisions. That is what Ferrari's rivals fear. Not only that Ferrari is fast. That Ferrari might be fast in a way that costs everyone else more than it costs them. And this is where tire management becomes one of the biggest hidden questions. The source material does not give confirmed tire data, so we cannot pretend to know exact temperatures, degradation levels, or private team readings. But in racing terms, the concern is obvious. If Ferrari can keep the tires in a healthier window while running at the front, then their advantage can grow as the sprint goes on. A tire advantage rarely announces itself loudly at the beginning. It creeps in. One lap, the gap is manageable. A few laps later, the chasing car starts losing grip. Then the driver asks for more. Then the tires give less. Then the team has a choice to make. Accept the loss, or risk everything trying to recover. That is the danger of facing a Ferrari that looks dominant at Silverstone. The rivals may not know if they are losing because Ferrari is faster, or because chasing Ferrari is destroying their own race. And that uncertainty changes everything. Because clean air can protect the leader. A car at the front gets smoother air over its bodywork. The wings behave better. The tires can be easier to manage. The driver has more freedom to choose the line, shape the pace, and avoid the worst turbulence from other cars. Behind, it is different. The chasing car sits in disturbed air. It can lose grip. It can slide more. It can stress the tires just trying to stay close. And if the track is Silverstone, with long, fast corners that demand stability, that dirty air can become a silent enemy. So if Ferrari gets control at the front, rivals are not only chasing a car. They are chasing a car that may be getting the better version of the track. That is why the first laps become so important. If rivals cannot attack immediately, the race may start drifting away from them before the timing screen makes it obvious. Ferrari may settle into rhythm. The tires may stabilize. The driver may begin choosing where to push and where to save. And once that happens, the sprint becomes less of a fight and more of a test of patience. But patience is difficult when the laps are disappearing. That is where pressure becomes visible. A driver behind Ferrari may start taking more curb, braking a little deeper, asking too much from the front tires, trying to stay close enough for the next opportunity. And every time the move does not happen, the frustration grows. Inside the garage, the same tension builds. Engineers are watching the data. Strategists are calculating what is still possible. Team principals are thinking about the bigger picture. And somewhere in that conversation is the question no rival wants to ask too early. Are we losing this because Ferrari is doing something special, or because we made the wrong call? That question hurts, because it turns the problem inward. It is easier to believe a rival found a mystery. It is harder to accept that your own team may have misjudged the weekend. Maybe the setup was too cautious. Maybe the car was not prepared for the track temperature. Maybe the driver never had the confidence needed through the high-speed sections. Maybe Ferrari simply understood the sprint conditions better. And if that is true, then demanding answers from the FIA is only one part of the reaction. The other part is self-doubt. Because the FIA can clarify the rules, but it cannot give a team confidence. It cannot repair a poor balance. It cannot make a nervous car stable through Silverstone's fastest corners. It cannot undo the time lost while rivals were trying to understand what Ferrari had already solved. That is what makes this block of the story so important. The panic is not only about whether Ferrari's dominance is legal. The panic is about what happens if it is. If Ferrari is inside the rules, if the car is genuinely strong, and if the performance is repeatable, then every rival suddenly has a much bigger problem. They are not waiting for an investigation to save them. They are facing a team that may have found the correct answer first. And on a sprint weekend, being second to understand is almost the same as being too late. That is why Ferrari's dominance can reshape the entire race before the lights go out. It changes how rivals attack. It changes how they protect tires. It changes how they interpret risk. It changes how much pressure they place on their drivers. It changes how much attention they give to the FIA, and how much attention they are forced to give to their own weaknesses. And the cruelest part is this. Ferrari does not need to answer every question immediately. They only need to stay fast long enough for rivals to run out of time. That is the real power of sprint dominance at Silverstone. It makes everyone else chase two things at once: the car on track, and the explanation behind it.